Hey, Craig Bielik with Junction City Today, and Mark Adams, a licensed marriage and family therapist, sitting right here. And on the far left, our host, Farrell Lafferty, who
You're
you
the
see
host?
all the time. No,
Or the
no,
co-host?
no. We're duo host.
There
That's
you go.
what we're going to be called.
We're a
Dual
couple.
Dual host.
Oh, wait, no, that doesn't sound
Something
good.
like that.
What does that
We're not
make
a
me?
couple. We're not a couple, but if we were, I would probably
I'd be the good-looking one.
seeking to get out of it right
I'd
now
be the
with
good-looking
Farrell.
one,
But and as giggly as we are and laughing all that, we're going to talk something serious right now. We're going to talk about divorce. Mark, I imagine you've seen plenty of it as a licensed marriage and family therapist. I mean, your goal is for that not to happen, I would imagine.
Well, I'm absolutely pro-marriage, although there have been couples that I've worked with where I've shared with them, my clinical opinion is that you shouldn't be married.
Really?
I was just going
sometimes,
to ask,
yeah.
isn't in some certain situations, it's inevitable?
It's, well, probably. But it's certainly, there sometimes relationships can get so unhealthy, so damaging and destructive, that it's just better for couples to end that. Now, I say that, when there are kids involved, though, man, then
gets
things
tougher.
get really tricky.
But what about the old saying, that it's better to
it's
come
old.
from a broken home than to live in one? Do you agree with that?
Not always.
Really?
Not always. Depends on how broken the home is.
Yeah? Yeah? So it's one of those old sayings, it doesn't mean anything. Whoever made up that old saying, knock it off.
Well, no, I mean, there's probably some truth to it.
Yeah.
But I believe every home's broken in some way.
Wow.
I mean, nobody's perfect.
Wow.
Every family has something that's really not good or not healthy.
Right. So where do you
It's
start?
inevitable.
If a couple comes to you and
Yeah.
says, you know what, God, we just can't get along anymore, and
Yeah.
and I don't know if I love this person, and
Mm-hmm.
do we get divorced? What do we do? How do we start? Where do we go? What do we do? Spin the wheel? What? I mean,
Well, usually couples aren't quite that. Their arguments aren't
They're not
quite
that far
empty.
along. Okay.
Not
All
well.
right.
Yeah. Oh, they're often farther along.
oh, really?
Oh yeah. So couples, at least in my experience, couples come into my office based on kind of two scenarios.
Okay.
One scenario is something really bad just happened. We're in crisis, and we tried everything that we know, or we've exhausted our resources, and now, therapist, you got to save us.
Yeah.
Or the other pathway is there's been this length of time where little things have just been accumulating, and then maybe one little thing, kind of that whatever the word is,
Proverbial?
yeah, thank you.
The proverbial straw that broke the camel.
Thank you. Yeah.
The tipping point.
That's it. And it looks like, geez, this is such a small deal. Why such the huge reaction? Well, it's this build up pressure, this build up negativity.
Yeah.
And so it kind of depends on which pathway these couples have come in on. Years and years of build up negativity, well, that's fixable if both are committed to working on letting go of some things, like their justified hurt and pain, trying to do some forgiveness. But sometimes one person has already decided, like, I'm done.
Wow.
And if that's the case,
You know-
there's really nothing anybody can do.
Let me just say, from my previous marriage,
Yeah.
there's still things that anger me and upset me, and we've been
About
divorced
that.
forever.
Yeah.
About that situation. I'm still like, I just can't believe that. It just totally just blows me away.
Yeah.
I don't know. I need more.
Years down the line.
I don't know if I need more counseling or what, but is that
don't
an
know.
odd thing from
No.
a relationship you've had?
No.
And is it possible for it to affect your current relationship?
Well, is it possible for it not to?
Ooh.
No, of course it's going to affect it. So that reaction, though, of having these pretty intense emotional feelings come back when we think about or remember, even maybe even a decade or so ago, these experiences, it's really functional if you think about it. I mean, that's really our brain's way of saying, ooh, if you get into a situation like that, I'm going to remind you what it's like, so you don't do it again. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Now here's where it can get problematic, though, right? You're
Makes
married.
perfect sense what we're talking about.
In the marriage you're in right now, if you get into a situation with your wife that you're committed to and you love, and your brain says, ooh, this feels familiar, and it pulls up all those ugly feelings that's not about her, but now in this setting, in this interaction, it comes out on her. Now we got a problem.
You got to learn how to put the kibosh on your feelings from your relationship.
Yeah. Or at least learn how to say, okay, babe, I got to call a timeout. Because the situation's here, and I know that I'm way up here.
I'm not thinking straight.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking
My
straight.
brain's hijacked.
We got to take a.
My ex
I need a drink.
has hijacked my head, and I don't want her in this relationship.
You got to go
Yeah.
watch Grey's Anatomy or something.
See, we're back on that.
For an hour on that. So, again, getting back to this, sometimes divorce is going to happen. That sort of thing.
Well, clearly.
Right. How do you know? Where's the line? How do you say to someone, you know what, I really think you guys are going to be better apart? Or how do you say, you know what, I think you guys can fix this? I mean, is there like a 50 point quiz or something that you take?
It's interesting, Craig, that you asked that question, because I had a student actually ask me that question last week in a class that I teach at Weber State on family relations. We were talking about divorce, and she says, "Where's the line? Like, where is that point where you just don't do it anymore?" And my response to her and my response to you is, "There's not a line, right? It's gray. That's a gray area, but we don't like how gray feels." And so we try to define these black and white lines.
Yep.
And that kind of sets us up. Some couples stay in their marriage way too long as a result. Some couples don't stay in long enough. There's some really interesting research on divorced couples and the percentage of couples who 5 years after the divorce say, my life is actually worse than when I was married. I wish that I'd stayed married. I wish I had known.
That's a high percentage?
High. Social sciences, like a third.
Okay.
More than I would expect.
Well, they used to say, it used to be kind of a rule of thumb that half of all marriages ended in divorce. Is that still?
It's a little bit lower.
A little lower?
Yeah, it's in the 40s now, but there's a lot less marriage.
Well, sure. Sure, people are maybe
shacking
not
up.
going into
Right.
it.
Hey, let's shack up.
Shacking up. If
That's only one factor. The other factor is first marriages, people are waiting longer. And so there's been a decline in the marriage rate because of that age as well.
So have you situations where people will be like, man, we lived together for 10 years and we got married and within a year we were divorced?
Oh, yeah. I see a lot.
How does that work, though? You'd think they've already sorted out their differences if they've been in a relationship that long and all of a sudden they're married.
But for a decade, the relationship has been qualitatively different than a marriage. Otherwise, they would have been married. And so that's not true for everybody, but for some couples that cohabitate, right, it feels safe. Because if something happens, right, I can walk out.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, even if they're not talking about commitment levels, there's kind of this unspoken aspect to it. And so it freaks people out. They've been living together for 10 years, they get married, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, dang, I don't know if I can live with this level of dependency, or that this feels so much more risky now than it did before. And really, like you're saying, practically, that's really no different. The day-to-day living stuff, it's exactly the same. But there's all of a sudden this new legal component, and there's, right, what does society say marriage is, and how is that different than we've been living? And now I'm a wife and a husband, and not boyfriend or girlfriend or fiance or whatever those terms are that the couples have. And these new roles bring uncertainty and ambiguity, and what does that mean, and how do we do this? And people get in their heads.
You got me scared.
Mess them up.
Now I'm thinking about all that.
You've got Farrell nailed just like that. You probably have other questions about divorce, and if you do, this phone number right here will put you in touch with Mark Adams, a licensed marriage family therapist, professor at Weber State. He can help you. Give him a shot. Do it like that. Parting thought on divorce?
I want to say I bet you therapy's cheaper than divorce.
Oh, that's an old joke, but it's probably not a joke.
No, seriously.
Yeah, it's probably not a joke at all.
Well,
Yes,
people
especially-
like I can't afford therapy.
Right. No, it's true. It is true. A divorce is going to, unless you mediate it but divorce is never mutual.
Right.
It's never, two people never want divorce at the same level.
Opened
And
up
so,
another can of worms.
yeah, I know, you're good.
Yep, same level at the
You
same
know,
time.
it's
yeah.
a challenge.
Yeah.
It really is a challenge. But divorce is expensive.
You ain't got to tell me nothing I don't already know.
Yeah.
He's still paying off his.
Farrell was a
Second divorce,
multi-millionaire
yeah.
once.
Yeah.
He really
Believe it or
was.
not, I'm 28
Yeah.
and a Texas oil millionaire.
Well, but the bottom line is it's a personal decision. People have to draw their own lines about what they can tolerate, what they're not willing to tolerate, and kind of live with the consequences.
Wow.
I just feel it's a different episode, but the kids get really shafted.
Yeah. That's the hard
They don't have a voice.
hard part always.
Nope.
Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in to Junction City today. Our guest, Mark Adams, who's been on here before, and I undoubtedly will be on here again,
I hope so.
especially because we keep saying that's a whole other episode, that's a
Yeah,
whole other
right.
episode, that's a whole other.
And somehow I seem to have all the problems he's talking about the fit.
Yeah, Farrell's a whole other episode. You were talking about layers, and Farrell is the literal 7-layer dip of a human
Farrell's
being.
our material.
Yeah, well, I can shoulder that burden.
He's a good sport.
All of that sort of thing. You're good sports too for watching this show.
Yeah,
if
thanks.
you have input, please let us know. You'll see Farrell and I out in the community. Stop us, talk to us, tell us what you want to see.
Right.
We'll be happy to help you on Junction City today. Farrell, say goodbye.
Goodbye.